Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into something pretty amazing. This idea that our intentions, what we're thinking and feeling on the inside, can actually have a physical effect on the world around us. It's this incredible meeting point of science, our own personal experiences, and even spirituality.
So let's just start with the big question right up front, the one that's at the heart of all this. Can a simple thought, just an intention you hold in your mind, literally change the physical world? It sounds like science fiction, right? Well, let's take a look.
We're going to start our journey with something we see every day, water. But what if it's not as simple as we think? What if water could, respond? Okay, so back in the 90s, this Japanese researcher, Dr. Masaru Emoto, did these really fascinating experiments. The setup was pretty simple. He'd take samples of water, expose them to different things like words, music, even pictures, and then he'd freeze them to see what the ice crystals looked like. And the results he reported were, they were just visually stunning. I mean, look at this. The water that was exposed to really positive intentions, words like love and gratitude, supposedly formed these beautiful, perfect, symmetrical crystals. But the water exposed to negative stuff like hate or you fool, it froze into these ugly, chaotic, distorted blobs. The difference is just wild.
The implication here is just mind-bending, right? It suggested it wasn't just about sound waves or something simple like that. It was as if the water was actually responding to the meaning, the intention behind the words.
Now we have to be really clear here. Scientifically speaking, these experiments are super controversial. They haven't been successfully replicated under strict controlled conditions. But that didn't stop the idea from capturing the imagination of millions of people. It planted this little seed of a question. What if our thoughts aren't just passive things happening in our heads? What if they're actual energies that can influence the world around us?
So let's step away from the lab for a minute and into a really personal story. This is an experience that takes this idea of intention out of the abstract and makes it, shockingly real.
So I want you to picture this. You're in a busy, loud seafood restaurant in Hong Kong. You know the kind, with all the tanks of live fish right there in the dining room. It's a pretty common sight, just part of picking out your dinner.
And the author of our source material does just that. They point to a fish swimming around in the tank, making their choice for the meal. It's a totally normal, routine thing to do. But what happens next is anything but normal.
The very moment that fish is pulled out of the water, bam! A sharp, pulsing headache just hits them. It's intense, it's immediate, and it comes completely out of nowhere. You'd think, okay, weird coincidence. Maybe.
At the time, they even tried to make a joke out of it, saying something like, I guess what the fish is trying to tell me in the fish language is, he does not like me. Just trying to make sense of this bizarre, unbelievable feeling.
But then years go by, and it happens again. They're preparing lobsters for dinner, and that same exact pain, sharp, specific, unmistakable, it comes right back. And that's when you know, this is not a coincidence anymore. This is a pattern. And this led to this huge, life-changing realization. It was as if that invisible wall we put up between me and other living things just dissolved in that moment. It was this deep, physical feeling that our intentions and what we do to others can actually be felt. That maybe, just maybe, we are not as separate as we think we are. This incredible personal story is really just an example of a much, much bigger idea. A concept that you can find in spiritual traditions going back for centuries. They might call it one consciousness. And the point is, it's not just some abstract philosophical idea to debate. It's this notion that it's a lived, felt reality. That underneath all our different shapes and forms, we are all fundamentally connected in this single vast web of life. And if that's actually true, wow, the implications are just staggering. It means every single thought, every intention we put out there, whether it's love or fear or gratitude or judgment, it doesn't just stay inside our own heads. It ripples out into that shared web. It affects the whole thing. Okay, so if our intentions really do have this kind of power, this kind of reach, then how do we start using that consciously for good? And this brings us to the final and I think the most important part of this whole idea. Let's really just pause and think about this for a second. If your intention genuinely impacts reality, from something as small as a water crystal to the entire web of life, then what is the single most powerful, most creative force you have at your disposal right now? Well, the answer proposed here is love. But not just love as a feeling. Love as a conscious, directed intention.
And here's how you can start. First, turn that intention toward your family. Then, expand it out to your colleagues at work. And here's the really hard one. Turn that same intention toward the people you struggle with, the ones who are difficult.
You see, this completely reframes how we think about love. It's a shift from seeing love as this passive emotion that just kind of happens to us, to seeing it as an active force that we can generate and broadcast all the time, on purpose. Kind of like how the sun doesn't pick and choose where it shines. It just radiates light constantly.
It all boils down to this one powerful takeaway. In a world with so many complex problems, maybe the most transformative power we have is simply our ability to choose our intention. As the source asks, what greater power could you possibly wield than the intention of love?
So we'll end on this really beautiful and empowering thought. By choosing to broadcast love, you're not just changing your own little corner of the world. You're actively taking part in creating a more harmonious reality for everyone. You become an instrument for the entire universe to sing in harmony. What an incredible idea to take with you.